Mima and Noella were inseparable best friends, but Noella became distant and secretive, leaving Mima confused and hurt. Strange events unfolded, including a chilling dream where Noella forced Mima to eat something unpleasant. Days later, Noella brought Mima cookies, leading to a life-frightening choking incident that sent Mima to the hospital. As Noella disappeared from her life, Mima realized their friendship had turned toxic. Mima and Noella were more than friends. They were like sisters. From the time they were little, they did everything together. Whether it was playing games, sharing food, or just laughing at silly jokes, they were always side by side. Mima's mother often smiled whenever Noella came over. She said, "You two are like twins." It was true. They even knew each other's secrets, like how Mima was scared of frogs, and Noella hated thunderstorms. As they grew older, their friendship only got stronger. They went to the same schools, attended the same parties, and slept over at each other's houses almost every weekend. If you saw Mima, you could bet Noella was nearby. "Let's make a promise," Noella said one evening while they were lying on the grass, staring at the stars. "No matter what happens, we'll always stay close, even if we live in different places." Mima smiled. "Promise," she said, holding out her pinky finger. Noella hooked her pinky with Mima's, sealing the deal. But life started to change when they turned 19. Both girls got accepted to different universities. Mima wanted to study business, while Noella chose to pursue medicine. They were sad to part ways, but promised to keep in touch. At first, everything seemed fine. They called each other almost every day, laughing about new friends, hard classes, and funny moments. Even though they were far apart, it felt like they were still connected. "We're doing okay," Mima told her mother one day. "Noella's still my best friend," as they spoke on the phone. Her mother smiled but said nothing. She had seen friendships change before. Mima didn't know it yet, but life had its own plans for her and Noella. University life was exciting, but different for Mima and Noella. For the first time, they weren't by each other's side. Mima's days were packed with classes, study groups, and part-time work at a cafe. Noella was just as busy, diving into her medical studies and long hours at the hospital as part of her training. Even with their busy schedules, they made an effort to stay in touch. Video calls became their new way of spending time together. Some nights they'd laugh for hours, just like they used to during their sleepovers. "You won't believe what happened today," Mima said during one call. "I spilled coffee on my professor's shoes. I thought I was going to fail his class for sure." Noella giggled. "Classic Mima. Did he forgive you?" "He just laughed. Lucky me." Though they were far apart, their friendship still felt strong. But slowly, things began to shift. Weeks, Mima noticed Noella didn't answer her calls right away. "She's probably busy," Mima told herself. But as weeks turned into months, the delays became more frequent. Noella would miss calls entirely, or respond days later with a quick, "Sorry, I was swamped." Mima didn't pay too much attention, because she was especially busy during her final years of university. Combining her part-time work with the side hustle she started as a digital marketing consultant, using the new skills she had built. Mima graduated, returned home, and fully focused on her work. Finally, Noella graduated and returned home as well. Mima was excited to see her best friend again. She kept that day free, just for Noella, so they could catch up properly and assume things would go back to the way they were before university. Graduation marked a fresh start for both Mima and Noella. They were home, no longer bogged down by endless assignments and exams. Mima was eager to rekindle the strong bond they once had. The first few days were promising. Noella visited Mima's house, bringing gifts and laughter, just like old times. They talked about their university days, sharing funny stories about awkward professors and embarrassing moments. But even in those happy moments, Mima noticed something strange about Noella. She seemed guarded, as if she was hiding something. "You haven't told me much about your time at uni," Mima said one afternoon. "Did you make any new friends?" Noella smiled faintly. "A few, nothing special." Mima frowned. That wasn't like Noella. She used to love sharing every detail of her life, no matter how small. Weeks after weeks, Noella seemed distant. She didn't share as much as she used to, and sometimes she seemed distracted when Mima was talking when they are together. It wasn't like before when they would laugh together for hours or share every little detail about their day. Now Noella barely said a word, and when she did, her replies felt flat, almost like an afterthought. One evening, Mima coming back from Noella's home. "How was it?" her mom asked. "Forced," Mima responded. "I noticed it most during the day, when we used to have our special chats. She'd sit beside me, eager to catch up. "Tell me everything during your time at uni, Noella," I'd ask with a smile, trying to spark a connection. But Noella would glance up from her phone for barely a second, mumble, "It was fine," and return to scrolling. It wasn't just the silence that stung. It was the way Noella seemed so absorbed in her own world, texting endlessly or talking on the phone with people. "Who are you seeing these days?" when I asked her as we walked through the neighborhood. "Oh, no one," Noella said quickly, avoiding Mima's eyes. Weeks later, things didn't improve. Mima noticed something else. Noella wasn't as available as before. She would cancel plans last minute or not show up at all. Mima felt the gap between them growing, but she didn't know why. Her mother noticed it too. "Mima, I don't like how Noella's acting since she's back," she said one evening. "Friendships are meant to build you up, not leave you confused. Be careful, okay?" Mima nodded. In her heart, she didn't want to believe her mother's words. After all, Noella was her best friend. As months went by, Noella's behavior harder to ignore. She would disappear for weeks without any contact, only to return with vague explanations. "I've been busy," she'd say. Busy doing what? Mima wondered. One evening, Mima invited Noella over for dinner, but she declined. "I can't make it," she said. "Maybe next time." Mima's mother, who had been quietly observing the changes in Noella, finally spoke up. "Mima, something's not right with that girl. You should be careful. Friendships like this can weigh you down." Mima hesitated. She loved Noella like a sister. How could she walk away from someone who had been a part of her life for so long? Still, a tiny voice in her heart told her that her mother might be right. "I'll keep an eye on things, Mum," Mima replied. But deep down she felt a growing unease. The friendship she once treasured was slipping through her fingers, and she wasn't sure how to hold on. Mima couldn't ignore the changes in Noella anymore. Her best friend was like a stranger, someone who came and went on her own terms, leaving Mima confused and hurt. Noella stopped sharing her life. When Mima asked what she was up to, Noella would shrug or give short answers. "Oh, nothing much," she'd say, changing the subject quickly. Once Mima texted Noella to meet for lunch. Noella agreed but didn't show up. Hours later, she sent a text. "Sorry, something came up." Mima's mother saw the frustration on her daughter's face. "Sweetheart," she said gently one day, "a true friend doesn't treat you like this. You deserve better." "But it's Noella, Mom." Mima protested. She's my best friend. Maybe she's going through something and doesn't want to talk about it. Her mother sighed, but didn't push further. Then came the nights when Noella would vanish completely. No texts, no calls, just silence. Days later, she would show up unannounced, acting as if nothing was wrong. One evening, after another no-show from Noella, Mima lay in bed feeling uneasy. She drifted into a restless sleep, and that was when the dream came. In the dream, Mima found herself in a dimly lit room with Noella and a group of strangers. They were laughing and eating something from small black bags. Noella handed Mima a bag and urged her to eat. It's good for you, Noella said, her smile wide but strange. Mima hesitated, but Noella and the others began to chant, Eat! Eat! Against her better judgment, Mima took a small bite. The taste was horrible, bitter and sickening. She spat it out, but Noella grabbed her arm, forcing her to eat more. No! Mima screamed, waking up in a cold sweat. She was trembling, her heart racing. It was just a dream, she told herself. And the morning she told her mom all about the dream, her mom responded, maybe God is trying to tell you something. Just few days later, one evening, Noella showed up at Mima's house with a big smile and a small tray of cookies in her hands. I baked these for you, she said. Mima's heart sank. She thought about the dream and felt a chill run down her spine. Oh, thanks, Mima said, trying to sound cheerful. Come on, try it, Noella urged. Mima hesitated but didn't want to seem rude. Normally she prayed before eating, but this time she didn't. She bit into a cookie. The moment she swallowed, something went wrong. She started coughing violently. Her throat felt like it was closing, and she struggled to breathe. Mima! Mima, Noella cried, stepping back in panic. Just then, Mima's mother walked into the kitchen. She saw her daughter gasping for air on the kitchen floor as Noella stood there in panic, calling out Mima's name. Mima's mom rushed to help. What happened? Her mother demanded, glaring at Noella. Noella stammered, I don't know. Call the ambulance now, Mima's mother commanded. Mima's mother didn't wait for an explanation or the ambulance to come. She helped her daughter into the car and drove straight to nearby hospital. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly to stabilize Mima. They said a piece of cookie had gone down the wrong pipe, causing her to choke, and a tiny amount of toxin substances in her system. They couldn't tell where that's come from, nor did Mima. Thankfully, she was going to be fine, but something still didn't sit right with Mima. Why had she felt so uneasy about the cookie? Was it just a coincidence, or was there more to it? Noella didn't call during or visit after the incident. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. It's like she knew something. Back at home, Mima reflected on everything that had happened. The dream, the cookies, and Noella's strange behaviors. It all pointed to one thing. Their friendship had changed, and not for the better. Her mother sat beside her. Sometimes people come into our lives for a season, she said gently. Not everyone is meant to stay forever. But the ones who are meant to stay will always find a way back, even if it's in a different form. Mima let out a small sigh, feeling the truth in her mother's words. Life wasn't about holding on to what was no longer right, but about embracing the changes that came with it. She might have lost something in Noella, but maybe she would find herself in the process. Mima felt a sense of loss, but also relief. Weeks turned into months, and Noella remained absent. She didn't call, didn't visit, and didn't explain. It hurt, but Mima knew it was for the best. She focused on herself, spending time with family and making new friends who made her feel valued. One day, As Mima was organizing her room, she found an old photo of her and Noella laughing together. She smiled, but this time there was no pain in her heart. She folded the photo carefully and put it away. "Thank you for the good times," she whispered. Mima had learned an important lesson. Not all friendships are meant to last forever, and that's okay. What mattered was choosing peace and happiness over anything else. And with that, Mima closed the chapter on her friendship with Noella and looked forward to a brighter future and spent more time working hard on her business. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It will mean so much, and don't forget to share your thought in the comment.